Sometimes I can't figure out if this is the most fascinating thing you could possibly do. So fascinating, so completely entertaining that it consumes you, or if it's the most boring, inane thing you could possibly spend your time learning about non duality. And so there's no one who really gets to decide that. Recently, I've realized there's a lot of value in questioning what an insight actually is, because insights seem to be the pinnacle that we can sort of look back on. And essentially, what an awakening is realizing the truth that there's no self. And then the hilarious thing is that who can say that they've realized the truth that there is no self? So an insight is sort of like breaking through a wall that never really was. And there's lots of walls to break through, and they can feel amazing. And you can also, I wouldn't really call them insights, but you can also have insights before you're ready to completely accept them on a feeling level. And so that's when some of the real fear and the nihilism and that sort of thing comes in, that it's intellectually understood and you sort of jump the gun there. Um, and so a true insight is usually coupled with feeling, and later there can be kind of a maybe a catching up kind of effect. But then sometimes there's one that just seemingly seems to completely be a game changer, which we call an awakening. Um, and then was the awakening dependent on that one insight? No. Um, so in another way to explain an insight is a thought that you've never had before. And then you can go into questioning what is a thought. And so, like I say, it's a way of like breaking through that wall. So what you'll notice with a lot of spiritual teachers is that they are teaching like-minded people. So the same insights that were completely breakthrough and key for them that they're sharing with you are also key for you. And so that's a beautiful thing, but it's also really important to understand, if we want to be completely all-inclusive with this message or this teaching, or just our interactions with others and our love with others, is to realize that it's not what we're doing as spiritual seekers. We actually have a self bias of being somebody who's conscious that they are becoming more conscious. So some people are becoming more conscious without being conscious of that. And sometimes being conscious that you're getting more conscious can be a hindrance. And it can seem like you have to make progress, which isn't really happening and becomes this whole problem. Um, so, one thing that we do when we teach other people is we assume that the same insights that were completely key for us are going to be completely key for them, without realizing that insights are completely perspectival. And you can have some of the craziest insights be the most profoundly wall breaking through, depending on the character you thought you were playing. And there's another misunderstanding here with the character you think you're playing that I want to address. It's not the character you're conscious that you're playing, and as a spiritual seeker we can kind of be like, oh, this is the character I'm playing and I shouldn't be playing this character. It's what's unseen. It's always what's unseen. There's a wall that's not there but you think is there, and so you've never looked beyond it. And so it's interesting to go back and look at spiritual teachers, for those of us who are conscious spiritual seekers, to look at other people and see what their big insights were. Adyashanti had the insight. I assume he was like really, really trying through meditation and spiritual seeking and all kinds of things, really, really wanted enlightenment, like highly conscious person who was highly conscious that he was seeking consciousness. And so his realization was, I cannot do this. And Eckhart Tolle's realization, he was not a conscious spiritual seeker, was, although he was deeply into spirituality and philosophy, if you look up his history, there was a lot there, but he didn't have the framework that we have the luxury of having today. Let's put it that way. But he had the insight that I cannot live with myself anymore. And then the insight comes in, who is the I that cannot live with myself? What are there two of me? And as a deeply, deeply religious person who always tried to be good and always tried to be the best person I could be, later I realized, I listened to Alan Watts, and I loved Alan Watts talking about how heaven, the Christian heaven, would be the most boring place ever. And I'd felt that as a kid, and I really resonated with that. And I'd listened to all that stuff, and I understood and really contemplated there was no good nor bad. But for some inexplicable reason, during the awakening, which was this crazy, like, entering this dramatic stage of feeling like I could not choose to do anything else. This was the most compelling thing I could possibly do, and delving deep into spirituality and working with who I was working with and conversing who I was conversing with at the time. Like, life could not be any other way. And this insight came up that I am the devil, along with a few like strange synchronicities and realizations from my past, and seeing how the story was sort of put together. And so anybody else, you say that and it seems like the most ridiculous thing. So insights can be the most ridiculous things depending on who you imagined yourself to be. And again, like I say, it's not who you consciously imagine yourself to be. There's these deep, deep subconscious blocks or walls. And that's why we can't have this concept of how we're doing on the path. And we can't have these concepts, and a lot of it is letting go and tapping into self-love. And the resistance that's there, if only we could point at it and say you shouldn't resist resistance, can become resistance. And there's nothing we can teach. So I often see people give like the things that really were powerfully meaningful to them. And I wonder if that's what Jesus meant with don't throw pearls before swine, but that sounds kind of insulting. Maybe he was just insulting. I don't know. But so we give these insights, and we're like, wait for it. You should have that same feeling I had. And they're like, what? No. But it's such a strange thing. And well, if time was real, it would make sense that would happen over time, right? So awakening kind of feels at the same time like being a character towards the end of the book where this mystery is seen, and what they overlook the entire time through the entire story is seen. It feels like that. It feels amazing, and that's the perspective from the character. But at the same time, it is only through the author's eyes that happens. And it's only it's as impersonal and boring as being like an a high school English student having the English teacher be like, here you go, here's the moral of the story, and you didn't care about the story whatsoever. So it's that sort of resonance comes from you, and it's really helpful to understand that, really look back at what is an insight itself, because they can be so amazingly seductive and sweep us away. And that is perfection. I do not mean that to insult insights whatsoever. This is the fun of it. But just realize when you're dealing with other people that what you've been resisting, what you've been uncomfortable about, there's a least resistance way through it. So, for example, lately I had the realization that during meditation, I feel like I should have perfect posture. And I've read several things about, the spine and I don't have good posture. I've never had good posture. And there's a lot of back pain, and the more I walk and run and everything, and just how my hips are designed and everything, I'm sure that's eventually something I want to heal, and eventually I want to have good posture. But wanting to have it and forcing myself to use meditation as like this thing to get good posture, I realized was actually the sort of physical manifestation of controlling myself. And so I realized, just like by letting my posture sink and then just seeing it, that there was just this release of emotion. And so it's so funny how it can sometimes, to someone who's trying so hard, it can feel like giving up. And to someone who feels like giving up is the way, it can be like picking something up and putting your all into it. If only it was so easy as just pointing to the opposite thing, that's a good place to look, but it's not always that simple. So, this video subject just came to me this morning, and so I decided to shoot it. And I wanted to mention Patreon. So I have a few people on there. I'm super excited about doing Patreon exclusive content, so I'm really working on that. And I'm also working on improving the quality of my videos, and this is the first one I've used a microphone for, so I hope that's better. But I highly appreciate it if you can donate a few bucks on Patreon. It really helps me to free up some time and some money to put into the videos. So I appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching.